Happy Sunday morning, everybody. I am moving through a bunch of questions that we need to wrap up. So, this one I have got is from Scott Bashaw. And Mr. Bashaw, if I'm mispronouncing your name, I apologize. Why is the budget so high with so few students, and where is the money going? So there's several different answers to that question. I know that I forwarded you the whole detailed budget, but I know that's hard to kind of digest and compare to other places and try to put into some context. So I'd say the first thing in Vermont in general, that we spend more in Vermont per student than we might be number one in the country. If we're not, we're number like two. So part of that is because there's an intense value on education. I think that's part of it. But part of it also is that there aren't a lot of kids. And so because there are so few kids around the state and here in Springfield, it's hard to develop economies of scale. So instead of, I can't save a bunch of money by having a bunch of kids utilize the same thing. So we have busing, and our busing, if we were a bigger district, we might run a similar number of buses to get to the same geographic areas. But the bus might be completely full, and our buses are not completely full. So those economies of scale are lost. Now, some of the ways in which the district could look at, or the community could look at, making things less expensive would include what a bunch of communities just went through in the state of Vermont, which is to merge with another town and to create a bigger entity where you can create economies of scale. You can have more kids utilizing one building so you can cut your costs. And that's, whether that would be something like merging with Windsor, doing a merger with Windsor, or doing something with Green Mountain, or talking to Bellows Falls. And we wouldn't have, and I think there's a lot of people who are opposed to this because they love the idea of having their own community school, that we are Springfield and we are the cosmopolitans and that's who we are. But from a cost perspective, regionalization is a way to create economies of scale. And to reduce cost, especially when all districts around us are tending, especially in this part of the, south of Route 4, especially, anybody not Chittenden basically, are having a reduction in the number of students they're seeing. So that's one answer. The where is all the money going is to a whole bunch of different things. I would say, I'll send some links in here to like some of the summary documents we have. And it breaks out by category, like what areas are we spending, the stuff in, based on by school, that type of thing. But I would say in terms of trends, the trends that are really hard for us in terms of cost control right now, special education is big. We have a lot of students who are qualifying for special education services. And once they qualify for special education services, we have a bunch of federal mandates about what we need to do for those kids. Now, if we're skillful as an organization, we should be able to deliver those services, hopefully in an efficient way. But we have some very high need students, and what we're finding at this point, this is one of the biggest cost drivers for us right now, is we have students coming in at the youngest grades who are qualified as having social, emotional, or behavioral disabilities. Students who are having a real hard time functioning in a classroom without being disruptive, knocking things over, hitting other kids, saying things that are inappropriate to staff, running out of buildings. It's a really high intensity need, and we have struggled as an organization to address the needs of those kids. And by law, because they're labeled as disabled, we have to find a program that appropriately meets their needs. So we have a bunch of kids who we are sending out to out-of-district placements. They get on a bus and they go to locations like Kindle Farm, which is a program in Townsend. They get on a bus and they go to the Brattleboro Retreat for a combination of mental health services and schooling. Those are intensely expensive students. And we do get a bunch of reimbursement for that from the state, a chunk, but it's still really expensive for us to do. So some of the things that we're looking at in order to try to fix that, I'll talk to you about the ones that we're looking at. Some regionalization, separate from what I was talking about like teaming up with like a Windsor and becoming a school district. If we just stay Springfield, around us, I'm having dialogue with a lot of the other supervisory unions about what can we do to create programs on a regional basis in a collaborative fashion where we all can contribute students to those programs. Again, this goes back to economies of scale, and we're hoping we can find ways to do that are less expensive than those other options. But those programs take a while to build, and right now there really isn't a platform for that collaborative kind of work to happen. So I've been working with a group down in Brattleboro, the Vermont Learning Collaborative, and we've been working on, is there a way to transform that organization to use it as a platform for more formalized regional collaboration around these high intensity kids? We're getting there, but it takes time. So that's a big one. We also have, in terms of some increases this time, we didn't really add staff. We had one staff position, which was added in the middle of the year this year at Union Street to help out with some behavioral issues that we maintained. Anything else that we added in this current proposal is all through federal funds. So it's not things that directly impact residential educational tax rates for Springfield taxpayers. Scott, there's so much more to this conversation. I'm not even sure how to wrap around it because there's so many pieces to a $30 million operation with as many kids and employees and state and federal mandates as we have. But that's a start, and I'd be more than happy to have way more conversation with you about it and answer your questions so you can kind of drive me in different places and we can look at those things. I hope that helps as a start. And I'm trying to make these short, but this is six almost 7 minutes, so I apologize.